So it's 2:04, Mike. If you want to get started and just kind of like introduce yourself and talk about, because you're a SCAD alumni, so I'm sure that kind of
Yeah.
brings some fun to it, and then we can get started with the content of the session.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm Mike Tanzillo. I graduated from SCAD with an MFA in visual effects, actually, from the Savannah campus in 2008. Before that, I was a photography major at Ohio State. So I made that transition from photography into computer animation and visual effects. After leaving SCAD, I got a job at Blue Sky Studios, working on animated films, which I stayed at Blue Sky from 2008 to 2020. During that time, I worked everywhere from a render wrangler to a lighting artist, to a senior lighting artist, to a department head in charge of our training department at Blue Sky Studios. So worked on 3 different Ice Age movies, a couple of Rios, Ferdinand, Peanuts, Epic, Spies in Disguise, I think was the last one that I worked on. Since my time at Blue Sky, I have made the transition over to Adobe to work on the Substance 3D side of software. So Substance in its history has been around for about 20 years. It is a software, it's a series of software that's designed to, that was originally designed to create material properties for assets for games, movies, animation, that kind of stuff. So basically take a 3D model and make it look cool. We've been doing that more and more. And I'm going to show you guys how you can do that. And also how it's kind of, with the 3D world changing, it's now getting much more into a realm of that can help designers, that can help people who worked in more traditional 2D type mediums, and really kind of across the board. So anybody who likes to make pretty things, 3D is coming your way, and I'm going to show you guys how to make it accessible, and it's pretty straightforward, because if you've ever tried to learn 3D in the past, either through Maya or Unreal or anything like that, it can be very complex, very intimidating. And the tools that we've kind of built and put together are both easy, much more straightforward, but also provide like the power and the oomph to make some really cool images too.
All right, well, it sounds really exciting. Let's get into it, man. I'm
Yeah,
excited to
right.
learn about Substance.
All right, cool. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take you all through a couple projects, and let me just share my whole screen and kind of talk to you about like the idea of this Substance ecosystem within Adobe. So what Substance is, it's a series of 4 different software. There's Substance Stager is what I'm looking at right now. This is our software where we do virtual photography, which is basically where you bring all your assets together, you provide lights, you do your rendering, you send it to Photoshop, and you make your final image. We also have Substance Painter, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, which again is the more detailed applying elements to your 3D models. And then we have Substance Sampler and Substance Designer, which allow you to build those materials kind of from the ground up. Those I'll be less into today because it's a little, it's not as applicable to what you all are doing, but just know that those all exist. And then we are also developing Substance Modeler, which is our modeling software, which is in beta development now. It's in private beta. But let's start with Substance Stager here. So actually, let me make my screen a little bit more bigger and a little bit more readable for you all. Just change the resolution. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so this is Substance Stager. If you've ever worked with Adobe products in the past, you will notice that the layout actually is very similar to probably what you're used to. This idea of we've got our toolbox here on the left. So like I said, in Photoshop and Illustrator, this is where you grab all your tools. In the middle is our workspace. And on the right-hand side here is where we have all of our parameter controls. So this is where you're going to see me make all kinds of controls here. And what we're looking at, again, this is a 3D space. So I can take objects here from our shelf and move them into our 3D area. I can grab a little Matt character here, scale him up. I can make adjustments to him in this space. Like I said, I can rotate the camera around and just kind of have like full control over here. I also, again, like I said, have parametric controls. So if I want to make this sphere smaller, if I want to make it larger, if I want to increase the number of size, that's all done there. Additionally, we can do things like add materials to these objects. So if I want to make the sphere metal, That's awesome. If I want to make our little Matt character denim, I can make him denim too. Let me go ahead and turn on our ray tracer so you can see what this looks like actually rendered out. And we've got lighting controls. You can see there's by default there's a studio light rig that's in there. It's just a 360 image that's placed in the scene. And the way that our software reads that is if like it recognizes this as a bright dot in the scene, that's over here to the right hand side. And let me go ahead and just so you can see it a little bit. Oh, actually can't see it as well. Oh, it's because it's blurred out. All right. So you can see there's the bright thing up over there. Let's see, it's over here. It's going to shine down, create that little bright spot here, and actually cast some shadows onto the ground. So you can swap that out. We've got a bunch of different default lighting things in here. We have various studio lights you can add in. Just watch this reflection and see how it updates. We can do things like exterior lights we can add in there as well, and all good stuff. So basically, when you're working with 3D assets, the goal at this point is you're going to want to do a couple things. You're going to want to make sure you have all your objects in one place. You're going to want to make sure they have the right materials on them, that the paper looks like paper and the wood looks like wood, that kind of stuff. And then at the end, you're also going to want to make sure that it's lit the way that you want, that it's conveying the environment and the mood that you want. And then you're going to render it out, like I said, and then take it over into Photoshop. So I'm going to showcase a quick little demo on how to do that, just using some of our basic assets that we have in here, plus some additional things that I'll grab from our online library, which I'll show you here in just a second. So what this scene is, this is with the mindset of, like, let's say you were in Adobe Illustrator and you were designing some packaging design for a coffee brand, and you wanted to kind of visualize how that would look, not only in like marketing material, but just in general, like you want to put it onto the 3D object. Lots of times you will project it onto a, like kind of mock it up onto a Photoshop file, which is fine, but you're kind of limited to what you can do, and definitely limited if somebody gives you notes, make it bigger, now make it blue, you're kind of locked in, where this gives you a lot more freedom. So I'm going to start here in our models, and I'll just search for coffee. And we've got a few different coffee assets out of the gate. We have our coffee with a lid and this coffee bag. So I'll just drag these into the scene here. Just the coffee cup and the coffee bag in here. For the materials on these guys, I'm going to go ahead and go into our material selector. Up here is our little search bar. And I'm just going to find some cardboard, and I'm going to put our cardboard material on this bag, as well as on the bottom part of the cup. For the lid, we're looking for like a harder plastic. So I'm just going to go to this hard plastic and drag and drop that on there as well. So now we've got like a little bit of a basis of our assets, like just the base material. Now I want to go in and find that logo and that kind of branding stuff I was creating in Illustrator. So if you've used Adobe products in the past, you're probably familiar with the Creative Cloud Storage Library. This is like, if you've never used it before, it's like Google Drive, but for Adobe stuff. You can save all of your you can save all your content, all your images, all your output basically into folders, which if they're in your Creative Cloud library, you can find them here. For this one, what I can do is, like, I've got these logos here that I designed in Illustrator, or I downloaded from our stock library just to make sure that they were legally okay for me to use. And what you can do is you can take these, again, just Illustrator files, and you can just drag and drop them onto your 3D assets. Now what this does is it almost makes like it's called a decal, but it's like a sticker that you can interact with, like you can scale it up. And you notice while I'm scaling it up, it actually wraps around the side of the bags too. So it really does interact with your 3D object. Not only that, you have controls. You'll find that all of our tools come with, we were really, really heavy on parametric controls, or controlling parameters with sliders, values, colors, that kind of thing. So you can change the roughness on this. You can make this much more shiny. I can change the opacity on it, so I can just slide it down. I can also make this like add the metallic quality to make it like I can make it like a brushed metal if I want. But you have kind of full control over that. The other thing that's nice about this is you can swap in different things. Like, let's say, I've got this Bonjour band. I don't like it. I'm gonna go ahead and toss it, add this other one that I created. And now it's like, okay, that's actually working out a little bit better. So I can put that there in the middle, just scale this up and around. And now you can see, again, this is kind of wrapping around the sides. You're like, okay, cool. It's a little off kilter, a little off center. So let me just make sure I get that centered up because that'll drive me nuts through this whole demo if I don't do that. All right, cool. And now I want to add, I have a variation of this basically without that coffee thing in the middle, just kind of the vines. I'm just going to place it here on the cup. Grab the circle here, scale it up. Cool. So now this is kind of wrapping around, all good. All right, great. Now let's say I want to really kind of want to sell this idea that this is like a coffee marketing thing. And like I said, initially in our starter assets, all that we really had for coffee was the only other thing that I could add in is a coffee maker. And that's not really what we want. What we have is access to our online asset library. So this is a Substance 3D asset library. Huge database of models, materials, and light rigs in here. So, you know, like if I search for something like coffee, I can go in here again. A lot of the same stuff is there, but I also find these coffee beans. And I thought that these would actually be kind of cool to add in as well. You can see there's like a coffee table, a French press, all this stuff. So anybody who has access, and I think you guys do through your education, though we're working on that now. So I realize I don't know that off the top of my head, but you probably have access to our asset library to download a certain number of downloads per month. If not, we're working on it, I'm sure, and we're hoping to get through that soon. So with our coffee beans, you can download that. I could, if I wanted to, I could just drag and drop them over from my desktop in here. I can file import them, and you can import any model you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be something specific to us. It's just like these are just FBX files. They can be OBJs, just like total standard. They can be CAD files if you have an enterprise license, which I think student licenses are, but we'll see. But basically, I can just take these coffee beans and drag and drop them into the scene as anything else. And now we've got them in here. Like, all right, cool. Now let's go back into our asset library. I need some coffee bean textures on them. There isn't actually a coffee, like a specific coffee bean texture. But one of the things that we find is that, actually I have one here. So let's see if this will, I don't know, how can I do this? Basically, when you look at coffee bean reference and you kind of think about like what they are, coffee beans are much more, like they look like leather, basically, like when you kind of zoom in and look at them. So I found this, and we have over 1,000 leathers, but we actually have this, I think it's buffalo cracked leather that I actually think, should put the word leather in there. Yeah, this one, cracked buffalo leather. So this one works out really well. And again, this is our preview window. Again, we have presets. So even though you're downloading one of these, they come with different presets, so you can have different colors on them and stuff. But we also have our web player. And this will give you an idea of what sort of parameter controls you have over each of these. Because normally when you download a asset from the asset library, like I'm doing now, you don't always use it for its intended purpose. You know, you can have control over the color of it, the roughness of it, the size of the grain, all that kind of stuff, and the wrinkle intensity. And this is just like a little quick render thing in our web interface that allows you to kind of take a look at that. So what I did was I downloaded this, and now I can just drag and drop that onto our coffee beans here. And just out of the gate, it's actually, they're actually not that bad, but we want to make a couple of like quick changes to them. So you can go in here, grab my cracked buffalo leather, and I just kind of want to make the color a little bit darker. And then I want to go into those cracks and make some changes. So we've got our cracked leather filter. I can create a custom cracked color and just make that a little bit darker as well. Just because we want some variation in there, but we don't want it to be like too crazy. And if I wanted to, I could go in and like, you know, lessen the crack amount. The crack width can come down a little bit and make it feel more coffee bean like. So you're like, all right, cool. So we got our coffee beans. Now what I want to do is I want to position these in the scene. And if I wanted to, I could go into like each one and, you know, set it down and kind of rotate it. Like if I wanted to kind of bunch them up around the cup, you know, you can kind of hand place it. But I'm super lazy and I don't like to do that. So what you can do is you can activate this collision functionality, and I'll go ahead and throw it on for the cup and the bag as well. But basically I can take these coffee beans and I'm just going to duplicate them. So I just hit Control D to duplicate and just bring them up a little bit. Control D again, bring those up a little bit. And then we'll take all of these. Actually, let's do this. I call these coffee cup. And then I'll take all of these, Control C, Control V again. And we're gonna group these around the bag. So this will be the coffee bag beans. And this is just so I can keep these straight. So basically, okay, let's take our coffee bag beans. And now that we have collision turned on, all I have to do is once I have them, I could select all of them. And all I need to do is just like push them into the ground. And you can see, let me turn off our ray tracer so my thing updates. You can see they just kind of start to stack. And now I can push this up against the object as well. And they can just kind of start to stack in place there and just kind of, lift them up, then push them down in the scene. So now they're kind of just settled in there. I can grab these beans that are going to go against our cup, same deal, get them a little closer to the cup, slide them, translate them down so they hit the ground, stack up, and then I can kind of push them up against the cup. And then what kind of happens is when you push them this way, they kind of start to build up. It's really good to just kind of like get them to settle into place a little bit more. So, and if you want to, you could kind of sprinkle some more around, but that's the general gist. And now we've got some coffee beans positioned there. All right, great. Now let's build an environment for this. So in this particular case, like I said, I'm just kind of focused on the logos, but I know I don't want to kind of render it over like a gray background. I kind of want to, paint a little bit more of a world. So we have a great functionality for that. I just create a camera here by hitting this add camera little button. What this does is it creates a camera attribute up here in our little, or a camera object in our scene. And I can, zoom this around. And if I wanted to, I could, really get, I can really focus in on something, add some depth of field, set the focal point by clicking this and saying, I want to focus on this label back there and kind of just like get up in there like that. But, if I wanted to craft the scene that way, I could do that. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to put this coffee bag into a virtual environment. And I can do that by, I've got this background. I can either hit this plus button and it brings up a dialog box, which I can search on my computer and find a background, or I can just grab this one. And again, this is nothing fancy. This is just like a JPEG that I got from Adobe stock. It could be, there's nothing fancy about this image. Basically what I can do is, if I wanted to, I can kind of position this on here and make it look like it's in the space and it's all good. But we have this match image button, which is like it's a little bit of magic. So there's an AI that goes through, it finds the aspect ratio and the size of the original. It creates lights based on the image itself. And it also creates it matches the camera perspective. So it kind of understands that this table has these vanishing points and this it finds the parallel lines. Now, it does not find that in every single image that you'll ever find, but it does, if you kind of know what it's looking for, it does. And then now you've got this coffee bag integrated into this scene. And if I want to, I know there's kind of window light coming in here. So if you don't want to use the light that was automatically generated, I can go in to our lighting suite here. And I showed you all the HDRI lighting that you can do. You can also add more traditional 3D lights like this area light. I can just drag and drop that onto the object there. Actually, let me show you that again because I did that kind of quick. So what I'm doing is I'm dragging and dropping the light onto the scene, and then I'm holding it on the object. I want the light to hit right there. And if I let go, it'll position the light so it's just kind of hitting that side of that object. And then I can go into the light itself and turn up the intensity of the light. Kind of looks a little great, but create some more light that appears like it's from a window light. And then from there, all you would have to do is go into our render settings and you would just render this out. I'm not going to have you guys wait through the rendering process, but basically once you have it rendered out, you can open it in Photoshop. And actually, I saw some questions or saw some chat things start to pop in. If you guys have questions, let me know. As you can see, because you're looking at my screen, I can't always see them, but but yeah, I would be happy to answer any questions you guys have. Feel free to unmute yourself, or if somebody would like to read them out, I'd be happy to answer anything you guys have. All right.
I
So
think we're good for
okay.
questions. We were just marveling at how well the buffalo leather works on that coffee. It was
Oh yeah.
uncanny.
Yeah. Oh, I see. It's kind of got wonky here. Sorry, when I scaled my screen down, Photoshop does not like that. All right, there we go. So basically, when you render this out, what you get is, oh, actually, I kind of messed this up. And I should say this out differently. But basically, you get the CG elements rendered separately from the background, and you can piece those together. And it also gives you what we call these are puzzle mats, crypto mats. They're called different things, but basically, it allows you the opportunity to select certain objects. So if I only wanted to select just this bag, I could just grab my magic wand and select just the bag, and then I can make color adjustments to that. And we also give you a depth mat too, if you want to add some more depth of field in there as well. You can do that too. So I just kind of wanted to showcase that. But yeah, turns out coffee beans look a lot like leather. Who knew? So yeah, so basically, there's that. Like, this is all good. It's all cool. But I also wanted to show you guys another example that's a little bit more in depth, just to kind of showcase the ability to really design something in 3D space. So it's not just like taking your 2D designs and applying them. It's really working with the 3D assets to do that. So make a new scene here. Save. Turn off the ray tracer. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open one of our other software packages. Again, this is Substance Painter. This again allows you to paint 3D objects in the space. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to kind of simulate what I would do for this is kind of like a real world example of I would put together a demo for a company that makes a lot of that makes cosmetics. And so basically what I did was I treated it as if I was coming up with my own design. So they were like, we want to put our design on a bottle. And basically I took out all of their branding and some of the specifics of it and kind of left in the core elements of it. And so basically what they sent over was something like this. And like these images, they were like, okay, here's the logo we want to use. We just had a designer design this really cool tileable pattern. We want to incorporate this into the design of our cosmetic brand. This is the color scheme that we want to go with. And we kind of like stuff that's like really patterned and textured, and that's kind of the way that we want to go. So this isn't exactly what they sent over, but it's essentially the same idea. But you can imagine this is like what you would do too. Like when you're designing something, you kind of, this is PureRef. If you don't use PureRef, it's not an Adobe product. It's free. You can just download it, but it's a really cool software to have some reference images up on your screen while you're working. So very cool stuff. All right, let me minimize this. All right. And basically, so it's like, okay, so I wanted to add those elements to like a mock beauty product. So I downloaded this cosmetic bottle from our asset library. And I just kind of wanted to add all those elements to it. The first thing I noticed about this, I should tell you a little bit about Substance Painter before I just start diving in. So same layout as everything else. We've got our kind of a toolbox over here to the left. This has got a bunch of default materials already in it. Some of these I've downloaded from the asset library. Some of them came with the software. And if I want to like make this bottle concrete, all I have to do is just like drag and drop it on over here. And then this becomes concrete. But I could also like add elements on top of it. So now this is like a car paint on top of concrete. And if you look at it, you can see that it's not only the color that's being affected here. There's like that roughness, that like kind of gritty component of the, because this is what would happen if you put car paint on top of concrete. You'd get that kind of like textured element. And if I turn this off, you can see that goes away. So it's like, it really is layering things together the way that they would in the natural world. And it does that because it gives you control over multiple components. Just create a paintbrush here so you can kind of see. Actually, you know what, I'll do this with another type of layer. We have two different types of layers that you can create. And that's what I'm doing here in this window. It's again, exactly like Photoshop. where it's like you think of one thing happening and then something else and something else and something else on top of it. Same thing. So, and we also have two components to this. There's the body of it and the cap. Right now, I'm just working with the body. So how do you kind of get all of those components to work together? Well, when you're working in 3D with 3D elements, everything gets kind of broken up into maps, and maps control different elements that combine together to make the final look. So obviously and all the components are down here. So obviously there's color, right? So I can change the color of this around and make it look like whatever I want the color itself to be. I'll show you height here in just a second. Roughness is what you think. The less rough something is, the more kind of like crisp and clean the reflections are. The higher the roughness, the more of a matte material it is. Similarly, metallic has slightly different components than just roughness. So metallic quality will actually make it look more like metal. And again, you can put these in components. So it could be like a slightly brushed metal too, if you want. And then normals as well. I can show you guys that at another point. But basically this height, if I wanted to create another layer on top of this, and let's say I only wanted to, and you have control over which one of these channels you change at any moment. So let's say I want to control the height. I can paint the height on there by just like lifting this up a little bit. And then I can go over here and I can paint, and now it just kind of creates the illusion that there's extra added height onto this. And I can flip that around the other way and push it down. So this isn't actually adding geometry to the object. It's just like a visual trick to make it look like it's popping up and falling back into space. And this brush that I have, it's like Photoshop. We've got a ton of brushes you can use. So if I wanted to, let's see, if I wanted to like grab a soft painting brush, I could do that, and it kind of creates a different effect on it. Now, like Photoshop, the way that this works too is that, like, let's say I have, I've got this kind of shiny blue thing and I've got the red paint underneath it, but I only wanted this blue paint to appear in certain areas. It's simple enough. You can add a black mask. And then underneath that, I can add a paint layer and either paint the blue where I want it, or I can create something more procedural. The easiest one to demonstrate this would be like our checkerboard. And so you can see when I start to scale this down, where the checkerboard is white, it says do the thing. Where it's black, it says don't do the thing. So white is where the blue object comes through, and red is where it doesn't. So great, cool, that's rad. How do we actually get this to look like a thing that we want to create? Well, the first thing when I was looking at this model was like, it kind of bugged me that there wasn't crimping, I guess it's called. But basically, like, it wasn't sealed up here at the top. I just felt like it was going to unfoil and go crazy at any moment. So I wanted to just kind of create that visual up there. So the first thing I want to do is I wanted to create a fill layer, have it control just the height, because again, I'm not changing the color at this point. I'm just creating kind of up here at the top. And the way that I do that is, again, black mask, fill. For this one, I want to grab just some stripes. And I'm going to go back in and just push the height down. I can control this later, but just so I can see what's kind of happening. You're like, cool, like, all right, but I need to isolate it to just the top of that. How do I do that? I go into the settings, and well, the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that it's not a diagonal. I want to at least either make it vertical or horizontal, and then I know I can adjust it from there. So I can start off by making them just like horizontal stripes. Then I can go into our 2D view, which again, so anytime that you're dealing with 3D objects, all of that is just basically it's a 2D, there's 2D maps that are being projected onto it. So you can actually go into the 2D view and I can move this around, and I just rotated that. And I'm scaling this down and just kind of putting it exactly where I need it to go. Like I said, I just want it here and I just want it here. But as you can see, it's kind of going everywhere right now, and that's not great. And that's just because it's by default, everything we do is repeatable across the entire object. You just want to turn that off. So now it's just kind of happening here, and I'll just scale this down so it kind of wraps around the back too. These are a little bit there, just a little bit. I kind of want to create just some more of these, so you can go into the stripe attributes and just kind of make some more of them. And then whenever I do this too, like here's another little layer, a mini layer stack inside our stack. I can go in here and I just kind of want to blur this, like blur these just a touch. Because anytime you're dealing with height, you just want to blur it just a little bit. Kind of, you can see it just kind of helps it feel a little more real. All right, cool. So I've got that crimping up there at the top. See that? Now what I want to do is I want to start like, I always like to do like my height stuff first, and then I can start adding some color. So for the color, just add another layer here. I'm going to pull up my design elements again. Let's see. This way. This over here to the side. Kind of push painter over here. Cool. So what I want to do now, just go ahead and close that for now. So you can see it. All right, so basically I just want to pick one of these colors. Again, not an Adobe product, not inside the same software, but I can grab the eyedropper and just kind of select one. For this one, we'll go with the red. Yeah, we'll go red for right now. It'd be like, okay, cool. That's the exact color that we wanted to use. Perfect. All right, so now we got this base color. If I want to, I can adjust this roughness of it. I take that down a little bit to make it kind of a shinier. It's, you know, this is kind of like a hard plastic. It's all good. Now for the cap, I'll go to the cap here. And for that, I will, let's say I wanted to just, you know, use, oh man, I kind of, sorry, now I'm just grabbing the zoom window. View, reset UI. Now I want to go in here and I just want to say, like, I just want a plastic for the cap. Oh, I've got this nice hard, pure plastic here. I can just drag and drop that on there. Now I can just do this and select that. Now it's that exact white color for the cap. Cool. Great. Everything's great. Now what I want to do is start adding some of this branding stuff on there. First thing I want to do is add the label. So I'll go back into the body. And this one is called base color. And for the label, what I want to do is create another fill layer. We're just going to adjust, for now, let's just adjust the color. And to do that, we're just going to add a black mask, fill layer, and then inside of this, actually, label, I think they called it. I've already imported this just to save a little time. And you can see now I can just add this in. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it differently because we could actually do it that way. Or what I could do is I can just go into this base color here and add the label that way. Yeah, that'll actually be easier. All right, cool. So I got our label in there. Go into our 2D view. And now within this 2D view, I can use this to place it where I want it. And again, we don't want it repeating. And that's the back of it, not the front. So what you're going to do, put it over here. Cool. Scale this down a little bit. All right, so this is roughly where I want this on the bottle here. Yeah, that feels about right. Maybe a little bigger. Okay, so now you can do that. Now let's talk about like that kind of more detailed, crazy background element. Like, now we want to add it like as a textural component. And the way that you could, that I thought about doing it initially was like, okay, cool. I'll take that base color. I will create it. I'll make another color on top of it. And on top of that, you know, limit it to just the color and be like, okay, cool. You know what? Let's just go ahead and grab, you know, we'll grab this light blue color, add a black mask to that. And then I will apply that kind of crazy pattern on here. And now what you can see, black mask, there we go, fill. Crazy pattern on it. Yeah, so now you can see it's like, it's kind of red and blue. These are like the two hero colors that we want. Let's scale this down, not quite that much. All right, cool. Yeah, you know, I'm not crazy about this. Like, I don't really like this that much. So what I ended up doing was that instead of getting that texture, because again, you have control over the roughness, the height, you can change that out. Just name these. So I should call that. And so instead of like adjusting the color of this, what I want to do is I want to take off the color and I want to adjust the roughness and the metallic quality. So I want to make it much more metallic. And I want to make it little bit rougher. Now it's kind of going all over it. That's great. It's cool. As you can see, it's kind of popping through this label a little bit. And that's because I've turned off the roughness and metal here. And all I can do is I can just turn those back on. And now that overwrites what's happening underneath it as opposed to kind of inheriting what's going on down below there. So now as I rotate this light around, you can see it's kind of shiny and metallic. And again, I can go back in to this pattern and I'm like, you know what, maybe that's, the pattern is a little bit too small. I want to make it a little bigger. Like I'll just change the scales to 3. All right, cool. And the cool thing is about the way that we built this is like, if I decided, you know, if I wanted to show them a couple variations, I can go into this base color and just select that one, select the kind of lighter blue. And what happens is because this is the way that this was set up, where I'm only adding color here, and this is changing the metallic and the roughness, it inherits whatever color I've got going on beneath it. All right, so now we want to kind of finish this off. So how do I make this look cool? Like, yes, we definitely have some rendering capabilities inside Substance Painter, and you can swap out different backgrounds, but I kind of want to utilize our whole tool set. So one of the things about the Substance suites is that we want to make sure that we are integrating into not only our own products, but like all the Adobe products in a really, really seamless way. And this, as an artist, this is a big one for me, is I want to, because I don't want to break in my flow as I'm working. So we've got this send to functionality. So I can just say send to Substance Stager. And, you know, we obviously have integrations with other software as well. Like if you wanted to take this and, you know, you can export all the textures. And for those that know 3D stuff, like we integrate with Unity, Unreal, V-Ray, Keyshot, Corona, like Redshift, RenderMan, all that stuff. So you can export as that, or if you want to keep inside, like I said, our Adobe ecosystem, you can just send it directly over into Substance Stager. Here, boom, there's our bottle. Turn on our ray tracing, and I'm just going to build a quick little scene for this, just kind of showcase like how I would finish this off. So take this, just kind of place this on top there, grab the ground plane, duplicate that, rotate it back, kind of create like almost like a little mock room here. Let's throw that that way. Okay, cool. So now what I can do is create a camera. I'll change the focal length to something like 120, kind of zoom in on this. And now for this, I kind of want to create something a little more monochromatic for this scene. So I can go into the shader elements of those 2 planes that I created, go into their materials and just say select the color from this. And then I can do the same thing for this. All right, so now, oh, and for the cylinder here in the middle too. So now, oh wait. Actually, this is actually easier to go at this way. So I'm gonna grab this. We've got this little tool that says, I have this selected. I just want to sample this material. And then you can do the same thing by selecting this. So now all of those materials are linked. So if I change this, it changes it on all of them. Go back into our camera. This is pretty saturated, so I'm just going to go ahead and take down the saturation just a touch. Pull back on that a little bit. All right, cool. Now, one of the things, just to add one last little element to this is, actually, I think this is not quite centered. There we go. Is I always notice this from like cosmetic advertisements, is that there's always like a splash of water. So we actually have that in here. So I can take our little water splash and just kind of set it into our scene. Move that back around the bottle. If I want to scale it, I can do that too, and kind of just shape this around the bottle exactly how I want. By default, we have a water material, which I can just apply. And now we've got our cosmetic bottle and a splashy, you know, even though there's no reason why there would be a splash. I don't know if somebody just dropped this from high up or what, but there's a splash of water, and now that's all good there. So that's kind of the gist of a couple of the different software packages. Again, if you guys want, I can show you let's stop the share for just a second. I can show you kind of like a brief intro into the other ones. Or if you have questions, I kind of leave it open at this point to kind of talk through how you would like to proceed.
I'd love a brief intro to the other ones.
Sure. All right, great. All right, cool. So first up, screwed up something. Share my screen here in just a sec. All right, I'm gonna show you guys Substance Sampler first. So Substance Sampler is a software that's very it's designed. It's very easy to create your own like custom materials for things. There's a couple of things that you can do for you all. I'll show you a couple of things here. So basically, we can I can go to this asset library here, and we've got a bunch of ground textures. And if I want to create, see, there's like all these different, like crazy amount of different, pebbly grounds and stony grounds and all this stuff. But if I kind of wanted to make one myself, what I can do is, let me just grab, got one saved out here for a demo doing tomorrow. Yeah, so basically I can take this rumbly dirt soil and drag and drop it in here. And this is, again, just one that I downloaded. And you can see, out of the gate, it's a cool little ground material. And like, obviously, if I wanted to use this in whatever software I was using, great. But what also I can do is I can mix this with other materials that we have. Like I have this kind of rocky terrain. And if I drag and drop it in here, you can see the stacks start to get created. And now I can start to like change these and kind of combine these up a little bit through this offset. And you obviously can go into the individual settings of each one of these, and I can control like the roughness of the soil if I want it to feel more muddy or more hard edged. One of the things about this is like as you start to combine things, you notice that they like have different colors inside our little blending mode here. So this is, if I wanted to control the material itself, I would select the little square here. These two circles are the blending operation. And down here at the bottom, we have bottom material color match. So if I just slide this up, you can start to see that they've kind of become the same material. Now, if I'm designing this for, let's see, like, let's say I wanted to just start adding some more elements to this. Like it doesn't need to be whole materials. We have these things called filters that you can do. So like if I wanted to add some more dirt to this, I can add some dirt on top. That really helps unify the whole thing. And you can, change the quantity of the dirt and the roughness of it. If I wanted to pretend like, what, this is a rainy surface. Like it just rained here. I can drag and drop some water on there and I can take the water level down. I can make the water actually be a little bit darker. And then this one's kind of cool. There's like a slider control that's like how much the water kind of creates mud directly around it. Or, it's a winter scene and now we want to add some snow on there as well. So you can take all of it, cover it in snow, build it back up, and then you can export this for whatever scene you want. That's kind of like the base thing that it does. It also does some really cool stuff. If you, this is very well utilized in the fashion industry as well, because what it can do is it can bring in Adobe Illustrator files and simple 2D elements, do things like, let's do it for apparel. You can bring in, let's bring this owl SVG, and you can make things like embroidery patches with it. So you won't see anything like out of the gate, but I can do embroidery. And now I've got, it's tiled over a surface. I'm going to take out the tiling. Not 0.1, that seems aggressive. There we go. So now, and basically, by the way, out of the gate, what I was, just show you the Illustrator file so you can see. It's just like a flat little, oh, wrong one. Right click, edit Illustrator. It's just like a flat little 2D design of this guy. And what it does is it reads the colors and it creates it creates embroidered stitches based on the color groups. And I can go in here and say like, oh, for this embroidery patch, like, you know what, I actually want, I want the stitches to be a little bit shorter but wider, so I can decrease the length, increase the width. I can, there's this thread imperfections that's really cool. So if you slide that up, it just creates it, if it just feels a little more janky. And then I can also, like I said, this is just the Adobe Illustrator file here. But what I can do is if I go in here, I can swap out, you know, like it creates a live link between the two. So if I just shift the guy's eyes over this way and I hit Control S and save it, you can see it updated over here. Because again, it's all Adobe goodness. So all these things kind of tie together. And so you can make your adjustments from here. And, you know, if I wanted to make a little, let's see if I can do this. It's hard on the screen this size. But if I wanted to, make a little yellow nose. Let me go ahead and turn that off. All right, there we go. And I wanted to say this out. You can see that the little yellow nose gets updated over here as well. So, oh, actually, this is a good one. So the feet, you're not seeing those represented over here as being a different color. It's because we have this color count. So this is like the number of colors that you would have in total. I just increased that, and that just gets some more detail in there. And then from here, again, I can take this, send this over into Substance Painter, apply it to, you know, a shoe that I'm designing. Actually, yeah, I actually did do that. This Adobe Illustrator design was designed by a colleague, and as a tribute to them, I designed this. I designed this shoe, and I was able to take. Oh, weird. Let's see. I was able to take, and oh, I just put the little owl logo on the back. But you can also do it as like a full embroidery, the way that you see it here. So that's basically a sampler. It's again a way for you to take real world objects, and like I said, you can bring in scans of leather, fabric, and piece them together and use those in your 3D products. Now, Designer is like our beast of a software. So this is like this is for like the people who this is for like hardcore users. Just minimize this. And one thing about PureRef is it really just kind of wants to overtake your screen when it's a little bit too big. So I'm just going to cancel out of this. All right. All right, cool. So 3D Designer. This is a software that you use if you want to build if you want to build a substance material from the ground up. So if we use this in the animation studio, so like let's say we're building a whole bunch of materials that were going to be used across the city of Rio de Janeiro in the movie Rio, right? So all the buildings looked a certain way, different types of graffiti. We designed all of that in here and then exported those as materials that the artist could use to apply to different parts of the image. The easiest way to represent this is to take one of these materials that we have, like we have these Japanese, I think I have one of these downloaded. I'm realizing I'm not logged in, so that'll take a second. So we've got like this Japanese porcelain material, right? That's really, really cool. And let's say I went online and I was like, you know what? I want to know how they made this. What you can do is, actually, there's normally this is, instead of saying subscribe, this is download. You can download it as the SBS. The SBS AR file is what you use in all the software. The SBS is like the source code of it. It's like how it was built from the ground up. And how it was built is inside Substance Designer here. Let me just open this. This is, I think it's one of these. Oh, I can just do this wallpaper lotus pattern, same idea. So I open this up, and basically what Designer is a node-based system that allows you to design materials. So the way that I like to say it is like you take very simple things and make simple adjustments to simple things to build complex shapes. So this one is built by just, it's just started with this circle, multiple iterations of it at different sizes, cutting different patterns out of it. layering them all together in this kind of wave pattern, flipping them around. And then once we get to here, we kind of make this little triangle, add that in. So now we've got this shape, start to build in some other elements in here. And then we kind of tile, go from here and then just say, I want to repeat it a whole bunch of times. I want to tile it out. From there, you can take it up into some color. So you're saying, I want to create some colors for this. And I want to start saying like, I want, to mask off certain areas. This inside one is like this, out is like that. And then, you're just kind of piecing it together. And the real benefit of this comes, and at the end, what you end up producing are these different maps we talked about, like the roughness map, the normal map, the height map, the ambient occlusion map. And then all that gets packaged together as one file that you can utilize in Painter and Stager, anywhere else, or in Sampler. But the real power of this is you can give your artists like a lot of control. So like I said, you build these colors in, but what you can do is what we call expose parameters. And what exposing parameters does is it allows the user in Painter and Stager to actually control like what colors they want to use, like the scale of the texture map itself. Make this a little bit prettier. And so it's not only that you're just designing the material, you're actually just, like I said, we're all about parametric controls. So you're designing those parameters for other people to use, for a team to use. How it's applicable is, like I said, you're on the asset library from my standpoint, because like if I'm not building assets for an entire team, it doesn't come up that often. But if I'm like, I want to make a solar panel for something, and I've got, okay, like, oh man, like how did they make these? Like these are really cool. I download that, or I'm like, what, I want to just kind of create this grid pattern. What I can do is download that, open it in Substance Designer, see how it was created, essentially steal that code or steal that stack of nodes, and then recreate it for whatever I want to do. Yeah, and all this stuff is crazy. So again, these are just spheres, and there's different. You can do things for buildings where it makes it look like different windows, corroded metals, all this stuff. So lots of crazy stuff. All right. So that is the bulk of it. So those are all the 4 different softwares. Again, on top of that, we've got Substance, Adobe Substance Modeler, hopefully out later this year. That's the plan. And we'll see how that goes. That one's really cool. That one's both a desktop and a VR modeling tool. So I don't have my Oculus next to me, but you can like just put an Oculus and literally like model something in 3D space. It's very, very, very cool. But that's all I have today. So I hopefully, I'll say it right here. I'll put it in the, I don't know if that'll show up in the recording. You can email me, I'm michaelt@adobe.com. My name is Mike Tanzillo. You can Google me and find my website or LinkedIn or whatever and message me through that. If you have any questions, you guys need anything. But this was great, and I'm excited to see what you guys create with this stuff.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, well, that is all for me today. If you guys need anything else, like I said, just reach out and I'll be happy to help.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. I actually learned a lot.
Cool. That's great. Yeah. Like I said, if you guys like, it's kind of the way things are going in the design world. Everything's going towards like a 3D environment. So whether you are somebody who's like dreamed of working for Pixar since you were a kid, or somebody who's just wants to do, it's like the learning 3D elements are really practical. All right, cool guys. I'll talk to you all very soon. Be good.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.